Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I like to read a small excerpt that was sent to me in describing the early pastime of Prabhavisnu Prabhu. It's entitled, You Want Initiation. And it was compiled by Prabhavisnu Prabhu himself. The Lordship Sri Shinitai Gohari were residing in the beautiful mandir on a huge plot of land amidst the rolling hills of Caterage. They had captivated my heart like nothing else could. Their resplendence had a major impact on my consciousness, so much so that I could barely separate myself from their lordships. Their attendants had the benediction of sweet conversations about Krishna consciousness, and they just went about stealing my heart chamber by chamber. His Holiness Partha Sartidas Goswami Maharaj, then the most adorable Partha Sarti Prabhu, saw my deep interest and capitalized on it in whichever way he could, just to keep my burning desire afloat. I loved the desire. I loved the classes when we gathered and listened in rapt attention, spellbound by the expanded knowledge that was being presented for our benefit. And when a Sanskrit verse was read in an American twang or clipped British accent, I became wholly mesmerized. I wanted that in my personal repertoire of Krishna consciousness. Prabhu ignited those fires of love, seeing me as a candidate suitable for initiation. Title, so you want to be initiated? Come and live in the temple. But I had a family of 4, my 3 little ones ranging from 2 to 6 years, and my soulmate Prema. She was so tuned into me that she could read my mind and say something even before I had formulated the thought. Life's tricky in that regard. Then Prabhu suggested I sold our family home and built a little kutir for us on the farm. Our premises were family related, so I couldn't do that. Quote, well, you have to attend Mangal Arti thrice a week, unquote. That was a great possible alternative. But we lived 70 kilometers away in Isopingo. Well, that's tough, Parthasarathi Das said to me. He was an expert in fanning the flames of desire for one who earnestly desired the bliss of Krishna consciousness. So desperate was I to read that Sanskrit literature under the guidance of the Vaishnavas that I had no alternative. Twice a week, I was an educator, teachers are called today. We rose before 2 a.m., bathed and clothed the children warmly to go to Caterage Farm as we renamed the place. Sorry, he said Cato Fridge as we renamed the place. In our go-go mobile of the day, no personal Mercedes then, we kept the children asleep on the back seat, and in the deep darkness of night, we drove a minimum of two mornings a week, a round trip of 140 kilometers return each day on dark, scary roads. Today, I'm surprised that people complain about a 5 to 10 kilometer journey in fancy cars and well-lit roads. I used to present myself to Parthasarathi Prabhu, and internally, within myself, enjoyed his smiling look of surprise. Thus, he saw that Prema and I were serious, and with much love took us under his wing as our mentor. Slowly, we were offered a room for the weekend to increase our exposure to Krishna consciousness. We slept on the floor, on the gudras we had brought from home. Then someone got 4 bunk beds, minus the mattress for the room. No problem, that was luxury after the fridge floor. We put on our duvet and gudras and fared well. The following week, we had sponge mattresses on the bunks. We slept well till my alarm clock reminded us to get ready, to be on time for Mangal Arti. It meant a freezing shower, but with a lot of screaming, oohs and ahs. That was no problem at all. In fact, it was most refreshing. We hurried to be in the temple room before Mangal Arti. I just loved to see the devotees warmly dressed walk around the room chanting softly. What a transcendental sound and vision that was in the dimly lit temple room. Unforgettable. That is an unimaginable gift of this Krishna conscious process. It has to be experienced. After a lovely program, we return to our room to be met by yet another surprise. All the foam mattresses were gone, simply disappeared from the bunks, and all our luggage, etc., was kept very neatly in place. Our visitors had even folded our bedding to make the room look very neat. Those mattresses had relocated to the rooms of some devotees that were feeling the cold more intensely every night. Prema and I shared a private giggle and donated a few blankets the following week. So this is how I convinced the authorities in charge that I really wanted to be a candidate suitable for Krishna consciousness. Our home in Isipingo became the stop-off point for many devotees who graced our home for a quick lunch or a lengthy feast or just a stopover to relax and unwind. We owe so much to our beloved Tribanga Sundar Prabhu, who grasped us in his very young arms and facilitated our spiritual growth, and to His Holiness Parthasarthi Goswami, who did the same to the point of even teaching Prema Bhakti, his mom's special recipes, and to come over with his Korinthai deities, sometimes to do his personal worship of the lordships. It is with much love that I reflect upon this, and Parthasarthi Goswami is recommending us for initiation. I recalled that Tribanga Prabhu received the name Udavadas, and I was named Kanupriyadas. Prabhu arranged to put hardcovers, vinyl wrapped for beauty, on two new Bhagavad Gitas as it is, with our names Udavadas and Kanupriyadas embossed on each. He has always been so full of class and style, typical of the devotees of the Lord. Yes, we should have a genuine desire to be initiated and then fulfill our commitment of serving Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON with the same eagerness throughout our life. His Grace Prabhavisnu Prabhu ki jai. So if the devotees would like, they can share their camera if they want. And what I would request the devotees is you can raise your hands on the participant list. I think on the chat room also you'll see where you can raise your hands, and the devotees can share memories. Anyone can just raise your hands, or if nobody's, you can just unmute yourself or show your camera if you want, and you can share whatever memories you can remember. It is purifying to remember the glories of the pure devotees of the Lord, as well as any devotee of the Lord. When we glorify the devotees of the Lord and remember their wonderful qualities, we also attract those qualities. We also develop those qualities. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to glorify His Grace Prabhavisnu Prabhu, who was a great example. As he mentioned here, he was determined and serious about his spiritual life right from the beginning, and extremely sincere about Krishna consciousness and his spiritual life. And throughout his life, we find he was a perfect example of determination, steadfastness, even due to his health situation. He never wavered. He took every opportunity of service with great eagerness. I remember when we opened up the Lanesia temple, we moved into extension 9, and it was a double-story flat with three units at the bottom and 3 units on top. And I had no clue about building construction. And we heard Prabhavisnu Prabhu was staying in extension 9, few roads above. At that time also there were some difficulties that he had. He had to distance himself a little from ISKCON. So I decided to visit him and requested that he please come and render some service for Shishinitai Gaurhari. And he was so happy to take this opportunity. And he took upon the responsibility to serve in the capacity of renovating the whole temple room, looking after the builders, making sure everything was intact in terms of shopping, etc. And every day he would come and he enjoyed that service. So I had the great fortune regularly to be in his wonderful company, and we will definitely miss his wonderful talks. His talks was very, very systematic. He would compile his lecture very thoughtfully, very wonderfully, and I really relished his association. So I would like devotees to share their memories. The family members also are welcome. So there's no restrictions or formality. If you want, just unmute yourself. Just let us know your name, and you can speak about Prabhavisnu Prabhu. And if you're not speaking, can I please suggest and humbly request that you keep your mic muted. Mother Sujata, would you like to say something? Any devotees would like to take the stage? Yes, Dwakarish Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Can I comment?
Yes, please.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuruntamyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Veda Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dear devotees, friends, Prema Mataji and family, we express our condolences this very difficult time for all of us in separation from our dear Prabhavisnu Prabhu. Was a real inspiration to the younger members, and his guidance was exceptional. He was very dedicated to Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON, and having his association has really helped my family and I to nurture our Krishna consciousness. And we always knew that if we had any doubts in any practice of Krishna consciousness, he would be the ideal person to give us guidance and counseling. So we have lost a very wonderful leader in our society. He has given inspiration to us. And as Nishinga Prabhu, you were speaking about his, his joining of ISKCON and how dedicated he was. I know that he retired from his service as a principal when he was 45 years old. Just taking the inspiration of his spiritual master, he actually, gave up that, the normal job that we all doing. In fact, I'm hankering to give up my job, but he, at the age of 45, he fully surrendered to the words of his Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. So from the age of 45 till he left us, the only thing he did was serve Srila Prabhupada. And for those that don't know, Prabhavisnu Prabhu compiled at least 17 books over this period. And how many devotees in South Africa, for example, can share and tell us that they have, written 17 books, writing, researching, getting advice from senior devotees and researching from various institutions is really a great endeavor and great devotional service. The books that Prabhavisnu Prabhu has left behind for us, these are like treasure for us. All we do, we just pick these books up in times of difficulty, or if we want to relish some wonderful nectar, it's there. And all these books are all in line with Srila Prabhupada's teachings. So I'm very grateful to have had his association, his friendship. And I'd just like to share one or two intimate pastimes that I was fortunate to share with Prabhu. And what I'd like to share is my first initiation. He performed the yajna. And we know when Prabhavisnu Prabhu performs the yajna, it's always so, and he's so enthusiastic and keeps all the audience, the devotees, focused on the yajna. And he uses that as an opportunity to preach. So my first initiation, I was blessed to have him as, performing the yajna, and I received his blessings. And by Krishna's mercy, both Rukmini Priya and I received again our Brahman initiation from, and again, Prabhavisnu Prabhu was the chief priest. And I remember before the yajna, when I called him, he was very particular. Make sure all these items are in place. He even told me the wood, what size they needed to be. And then I asked him, why does this, wood have to be this specific size? And he said, look, when you throw the wood into the fire, they must be that exact size. So, the priest does not burn his fingertips every time he's throwing the wood in the flames. So there's a wonderful lesson. So also he performed a wonderful birthday celebration for our son, Indra Chaitanya, when he was 3 years old. And we treasure all these memories. So during this lockdown period, everyone confined to their homes. And I was, the only way I was in contact with Prabhu was by WhatsApp. We would share some realizations. Mainly he would share some wonderful realizations. And I would also send him sometimes something meaningful I would have. And he would always just appreciate it. Whatever you send him, he appreciates it, whether it's just a deities from Vrindavan or Mayapur, or just some quote from Prabhupada. He's always having some wonderful, realization and something we can learn from. So I really appreciated that. And by some divine, arrangement, I've just volunteered as a sort of a member of the devotee care in South Africa, just to do service to help devotees and all of that. So we all new in this. And Jayananda Prabhu arranged, for Prabhavisnu Prabhu to train and teach us about yajnas, especially during this coronavirus times, regarding, if deaths, how we can assist, even if our, priests are all occupied, how can we sort of help? So he volunteered to help us, and we tried to arrange a Zoom session, and he said, no, that won't work. I need to be train you. So we arranged this. The seminar was arranged And Prabhavisnu Prabhu, he facilitated this wonderful seminar on death, from start to finish, together with assistance from Shyamasundar Prabhu. And he presented this wonderful seminar from, the whole, process. And we met him, and this was on the 2nd of January, just a few days before Prabhu left us. We met, we had such a wonderful association, and he was full of humor, and he was full of so many wonderful instructions relating to the subject. And, his final instruction to us was, you have now the basics. Please go out there and follow this 10%, because this is, research and, in line with Prabhupada's teachings. So we were very, very grateful for that. So if anyone has a copy of this book here, if you see this death, the Vedic View, it's a wonderful book, researched extensively by Prabhavisnu Prabhu, and edited by Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj, and blessed by Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. So I thank Prabhu for his wisdom, friendship, and I pray that he being now, I know he's somewhere serving Lord Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, that he may bless Rukmini Priya, Indra Chaitanya, and myself, that we may also do some meaningful devotional service. Thank you, Prabhu, for your kindness, and I hope one day to meet you. Just a final note, this book that he gave me personally, you can see it, he personally signed it. And in this he wrote, with love to his grace, Dwarkadish Das, from Prabhavisnu Das, 2nd January 2021. So I'll treasure this forever, and I'll pray that that we can follow in his footsteps. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Dwarkadish Prabhu. No doubt, Prabhavisnu Prabhu has left a treasure house of knowledge. He had compiled one book. This book also he compiled with hundreds of questions ranging on all topics. This is a 592 page book called The Hindu Friend, The Yoga of Love. And you can see he was very thoughtful, very Krishna conscious. Practically every question that somebody would have, he compiled. And I would have a wonderful exchange with him. When he would be researching, he would send me an email. Can you find this? Can you look at this? Can you send me this resource? So in that way, I would, also be able to serve him in his wonderful mission and service to Srila Prabhupada. So no doubt his books are extremely valuable. He was very thoughtful in what the society needed. So for example, the names for babies, when new babies are born, we want to name them different, when you give them different Krishna conscious names. Prabhu Prabhu thought that, we don't have the resource, he compiled it. Same thing with this book on death, the ceremonies and the rituals for what to do when we live in this world. He researched it, he compiled it. So like that, so many of the books he compiled. So definitely wonderful service. All right, anybody else would like to speak and share their memories? You can share any specific quality, trait that impressed you, that inspired you in what that Prabhu Prabhu displayed. Because remembering that also is a wonderful way to reinforce that quality, as well as we glorifying the wonderful devotee of the Lord.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
This is Ratnalekha Gopi Devi Dasi. please accept my humble obeisances to all the devotees that are online. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhu, I only knew Prabhavisnu Prabhu for a few years when I came to Johannesburg, but the impact that he made on me was tremendous. I just want to point a few aspects that that I know him from. Firstly, when he came to ISKCON Santon, New Varshana Dham, whenever we invited him to come and do lectures, he was ever willing and he never refused us no matter what the situation was. And at those lectures, his information was power-packed. The audience was fully attentive. And the reason for that was his humor. And that was the underlying thread of attracting the audience. And being an educator, he knew how to have that rapport with his audience. So I remember him basically for that. I simply loved it when he came to do discourse at the temple ISKCON Santon. Then last year, sometime in June, I was very concerned about what happens when a Krishna conscious person leaves his body. And I didn't know how I was going to arrange something so that my family could follow, because they obviously are not on the same level of Krishna consciousness that I was on. And so last year, sometime in June, I don't know how it happened, but I got to chatting with Prabhavisnu Prabhu. And then he made a call to me. The call lasted 59 minutes. And he said, you know what, we've been talking for almost an hour, and I hope you now know what has to be done on the passing away, when you pass away. And obviously it's not going to be anytime soon, but really, after that, I put together a dossier for my family to follow as to exactly what had to be done on my passing. So that, to me, is the most important thing that happened between Prabhavisnu Prabhu and myself. Then thereafter he created a Vaishnav Sangha group, and the day before he passed, his last posting on that group was 12:02, or the day before, and he posted some beautiful messages on that group, Prabhu, and we really miss that, that association now. And every time I look at the phone and I look at that chat and I say, I wonder what's going to happen here, but somebody needs to take that over and continue posting maybe a thought for the day or whatever. So really fond memories of my short association with Prabhavisnu Prabhu, and I really sympathize with the family. They've lost a dear soul. The entire ISKCON has lost a dear soul, and we are all in the same mourning as the family is. So thank you very much. These were my short thoughts about Prabhavisnu. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mataji, for sharing. Yes, Prabhavisnu Prabhu was very humorous. I remember during one wedding, the couple was sitting, and then at one point in the wedding, the couple needs to change seats. So as the couple, they changed seats, but they changed seats, but then they were sitting a little distant away. So then Prabhavisnu Prabhu said, don't be shy, you need to sit closer to the heart. So then, and everybody laughed. So Prabhavisnu Prabhu we had a wonderful way of engaging the audience, and very humorous, no doubt, and a very, very wonderful soul in helping and cultivating devotees. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else would like to share? Yes, iPhone. Somebody on, yes.
Hare Krishna.
Can you introduce yourself? Hare Krishna.
My name is Mukunda Das.
Hare Krishna, Mukunda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I know Prabhavisnu Prabhu for quite some time. We were sitting together in the temple, and we were told to write what we think of the other person. And each one had to write. We are having this. So I was sitting next to him, and he wrote about me, reserved. And I wrote for him, sadhu. That the idea is that to be a devotee of Krishna is not an easy thing. And to be called a sadhu is to be quite an honorable thing. And for him to have left this world the way he did, chanting his japa like that, it is a very, very wonderful example how you live in Krishna consciousness and how you die in Krishna consciousness. Because it's not an ordinary thing to be practicing. We may practice so many things, but we will be tested when that time comes when we're going to leave this body. And the Prabhu, he led a very wonderful Krishna conscious life. He set a wonderful example as a representative of his spiritual master. All the initiated devotees can follow the path of how this Prabhu has lived his life and how he's left this world as well. And the family can be very, very proud and be grateful and fortunate that they've had somebody like this to lead, not just them, but the entire yatra in the whole of South Africa, that we had somebody like this, like a father figure to guide and shelter. And similar to Srila Prabhupada, how we say, hard like a thunderbolt and soft as a rose. When it came to being strict about things, he was like on it. It had to be like this. There was no shortcut. Every time they're doing something in the temple, Abhishek or some kind of thing, it had to be as it had to be. And he was like that. But with the softness of his heart, that we can understand that, no offense to anyone, but the older devotees, the devotees from the older times, when I joined, I was surrounded by people like this, devotees like this, who gave that intimacy that you want to be a part of something. And this Prabhu, he had this feeling that anybody who came in contact with him would want to be like him, would want to be with him because of the example that he shed for everyone. He wasn't putting on some act. He was genuinely a natural Vaishnava, a sadhu. And anybody came in contact with him and said, yes, this person is somebody special. This person is a devotee of the Supreme Lord. And when we see him, we can think, yes, how that we should also be. How can we can also follow his example? And he was very much humorous, that he would make jokes and everybody would laugh, but at the same time, keeping it very, very serious, very, very Krishna conscious. So my family, myself, my wife, all of us, the whole yatra in Johannesburg, in Durban, we all miss him very much. But at the same time, as His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami said, that we should live our life like today would be our last day, because one day it will be. Because more or less this is where we're heading to, and Srila Prabhupada has given us this, that sooner or later we're all going to have to leave our body. And he said, this Prabhu has set an example as a Vaishnava, as a devotee. Then he was chanting his japa, he left this world. And what a glorious way to live, remembering the Supreme Lord, a wonderful example. And as Krishna says, chapter 8, text 5, text 6, one remembers me at the time of death, attains me without fear. So Prabhu was very dedicated, fixed up in his chanting. Surely he was remembering the Supreme Lord in the Brahma Murta period of his life. And we all pray that he's gone back to Godhead. If not, he's gone back to wherever his spiritual master is, and they will associate intimately, because the spiritual master and the disciple who is sincere are never, ever separated. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for sharing, Mukunda Dada Prabhu. Yes, it's true. He loved chanting. I remember one time at the temple, Prabhu had a big, huge bead bag. I mean, like really massive. And so he had his big, huge bead bag, and he had his hand in his bead bag. So I approached and said, Prabhu, why is your bead bag so big? It's like it's extraordinary size. You get large bead bag, but his was extraordinary. So then he said, come, I'll show you. So he put his zip down. He had a bead bag with a zip. So he pushed the zip down. Then he said, put your hand. So then I put my hand. Then he put his hand in the bead bag, and he started putting all the tablets. There must have been, half a dozen tablets in his bead bag. And I was surprised. Wow. Because Prabhu from early age, he had heart challenges, heart trouble. And I think from the age of 25, 26, he had heart attack, and they had to operate. But throughout, if somebody had a heart attack and with so many tablets, for rendering service, they would, it's like, okay, I want to take rest. Prabhu, there was no rest. He was like a warrior, a soldier for Srila Prabhupada. And just that really, inspired me to always get his association, because it showed that immaterial of his ill health, he was totally fixed, knowing his position, his love and dedication to Srila Prabhupada and to Srila Bhakti Maharaj, and he knew exactly what he had to do in life. So very, very exemplary. Nimai Singh.
Nimai.
Yeah. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
everybody.
Haribol.
It's so dark here. Hare Krishna,
We can-
my dad,
yeah.
Nareshwar. Yeah, I'm just going to be reading his, on behalf of him. He's actually very emotional and isn't able to get through reading the whole thing, but he did write something that he would like to share today with everybody. So I'm
Please.
just going to be reading it on his behalf.
Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Bhakti Charu Swami, and all glories to His Grace Prabhavisnu Das. Prabhavisnu Das was my eldest brother, the eldest of 5 siblings. He, together with my younger brother, the late Surya Narayan Das, and I, were very close growing up. Our love for music and Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON maintained our close-knit family. He, as a school principal, being academically inclined, received Srila Prabhupada's blessings to be able to write so many books. His most enjoyable times were spent researching these books into the early hours of the morning. He was extremely passionate about his preaching and spent decades cultivating devotees. Irrespective of whether he felt ill or not, it was his priority. My fondest memories, including one of the most recent ones, is of us spending hours talking about Lord Krishna and his most dearest Srila Prabhupada. But the most pleasurable was when we were singing and chanting, playing our guitars and glorifying the names of the Lord. And that I am really going to miss the most. But I find solace in knowing that my brother was chanting the holy name of the Lord and was definitely escorted back to Goloka Vrindavan by Srila Prabhupada. Until we meet again, my dear brother, I love you and I miss you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yes, we will miss Prabhu Prabhu very much. But Srila Prabhupada also gave us the solace that we will meet again in the spiritual world. There is a ISKCON in the spiritual world. We are all family, we are all connected. And even though we lament the separation, no doubt we will cherish meeting again all the devotees back in the spiritual world. So I'd like to get Madhuri Dasi to also share.
Hare Krishna, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindhubhya evacha, Patitanam Pavanabhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So it was seeing Rohini and her dad is a very, very stark remembrance of Prabhavisnu Prabhu. It's incredible how his devotion, his enthusiasm, and his surrender and sincerity had a ripple effect on the entire family and so many others. So I was living at the Sri Sri Radharadhanath temple as a full-time devotee in 1987 when I first saw Prabhavisnu Prabhu. He was dressed in a suit always, coming to greetings and Guru Puja and then rushing off to school. So he would never fail to put his palms together and say Hare Krishna to any devotee he saw. And I saw that, and I once, when he greeted me, I said to him, Prabhu, the suit does not fool me. I know that you are in disguise going to preach rather than teach. Then he started laughing and he said, Mataji, you know me well. He said, preaching is my life. And he went on to express how much happiness he gets from discovering, from fanning the spark in any new person that he met, especially in his line of work on a daily basis. And at the time, he stayed in Isipingo. And I remember on many an occasion, the devotee that I was serving under, Akinchana Prabhu, she would oftentimes take us after Sankirtan to different devotees' houses for house programs. And I remember clearly going to the house in Isipingo, and Nareshwar Prabhu, Surya Narayan Prabhu, and Prabhavisnu Prabhu, and Mukunda Prabhu, Sridham Prabhu's father, was also cultivated by Prabhavisnu Prabhu, and he was also a teacher. So his family was also there. I think they stayed in the vicinity or they were visiting. But all three brothers would whip out their guitars and they would have the most lively of kirtans. And it was almost like you transported to the descriptions of Srivas Angam and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because they, Prabhavisnu Prabhu had encapsulated the mood of a preacher so clearly. And he knew that Krishna consciousness was not just dry philosophy, but also the heartwarming kirtans. And even though, like Nishinga Prabhu recalled, that he had his first heart attack in his late 20s, it didn't deter him. He sang with such gusto this Maha Mantra because he had faith in it, and because he knew that that was the Yuga Dharma, that there was no other way but this process of chanting and making others to chant. Jiva Doya, Vaishnav Seva was another thing that he completely embraced. Prabhavisnu Prabhu, like we heard in his write-up that was read earlier on, in donating blankets to the devotees at Cato Fridge, he also made it part of the religion to cook together, with Mother Prema. And also Prabhavisnu Prabhu's mother was such a saint. They would host all of the sannyasis. They would cook and serve with so much heart. Their spoons weren't tablespoons that they served you prasadam with. They served like so heartily. It was like you didn't know if you didn't have space to eat the prasadam because of material limitations of small stomachs. It was the huge hearts and the love that it was served with that you just became so captivated with that I don't know what happened. It was just the exchange of love that Srila Rupa Goswami explains in the Nectar of Instruction, giving and accepting prasadam, was so much alive in that family, and it still is up until today. That if a person is not inclined to listen to philosophy, the heart would become transformed by so transformed by this prasad seva that Prabhavisnu Prabhu and his entire family embodies even up until today. And in respect to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's recommendation of also Jiva Doya, saving other people. Like I said, Prabhavisnu Prabhu understood this part of the philosophy so succinctly that he preached to whomever he met at school. There are so many students that became devotees by the impact that he had on them. And he started several namhatas, or congregational gatherings, transforming the lives of so many people that up until today, so many people in good standing in our movement were sort of affected by his touchstone effect. We see that in also the younger generation of his family members, in the children of his brothers and his own children as well, that the roots of Krishna consciousness, of serving prasad, of accepting the recreational sport of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the spirit of Sankirtan lives on so nicely because of that ripple effect of his sincerity and the sincerity of his brothers. Prabhavisnu Prabhu was so versatile in service. He could serve you Krishna Prasadam. In my limited experience, he could serve Krishna Prasadam to a devotee with so much love, but he could also sing very melodious kirtan and play the guitar so nicely that when we first moved the deities to the dance academy in, what extension was it? In extension 3, Lanesia, before the present temple, we had a sort of auditorium-like room, and Prabhavisnu Prabhu used to play guitar and sing many wonderful tunes in the mantra rock band that we had. And together with him, Nishingananda Prabhu and Premasindhu Prabhu on drums, and another devotee had organ, keyboard. We had some fascinating kirtans. So in the morning, on Saturday afternoons, Prabhavisnu Prabhu would be there. His wife would come to cook the 7 o'clock offering, and he would join the devotees with so much gusto, despite his age and all the heart tablets that he was taking. When the mantra entered his ears or vibrated from his tongue, he sort of like transformed into a very youthful person. You could see the mantra gave life. He, like the other speakers before me have mentioned, he was expert as a devotee. He saw the need in society, and he fulfilled this in composing the lovely book of baby names. And thus there are countless children that now have names that are Krishna conscious. And we know from the Bhagavatam how potent this is, that Ajamil, even though he fell away from devotional practices, but because he named his son Narayan, and he chanted that, he had such an incredible destiny. So a simple thing like compiling a list of names, Krishna conscious names, for families and generations to come to use is such an incredible service that it cannot be underestimated. He was such an expert pundit. Actually, I would go so far as to say that his ability as a pundit is unprecedented. He could conduct a wedding, as you all know, in 45 minutes and keep the entire audience totally captivated. Everybody wanted him to do their wedding. He became such a sought-after pundit for funerals, grain-giving ceremonies, any need that there was in society, he could fulfill. And I remember that he was encouraging Nishingananda Prabhu to do weddings, and Nishinga Prabhu told him he prefers to do funerals because there's less karma involved. And he was laughing, and then he said, yes. So, I am taking that on simply as a service, but I'm happy that you do something, because we need learned people in the society. We need, Prabhupada wanted a society of brahmanas, and thereby he encouraged so many devotees to embrace this education in fulfilling the need to become pundits in society. And he took so much of pride in setting up the yagya kunds. The big fruit should be placed strategically. The colors of the fruit and vegetable mattered to him. I helped him set many yagyas, and we had much fun together that I would greatly miss. And I always remember how he was so meticulous in this. Prabhavisnu Prabhu had been through 2 fallen spiritual mentors, yet he had great Guru Nishta in His Holiness Bhakti Chiru Maharaj. When he met him, he did not want to miss any of Maharaj's association upon any of his visits, so much so that he would come to the airport, he would come to Harinamananda Prabhu's house, and he would be very sick. He would have spent many days in bed prior to Maharaj's visit, but he understood the touchstone effect of the association of a pure devotee, and that Guru Nishta that he had, or the firm faith that he had in his Guru, was a saving grace for him. Oftentimes he would have many dreams of Nishananda Prabhu and myself, and he would write to us and tell us about how we were serving together with him in his dreams. And even when he had his last major heart surgery, he had some vision of Krishna in the rasa dance, and he shared many things of how we were all serving together, and he accomplished what I would say is an uncommon feat in raising so many wonderful children, nieces and nephews, grandchildren. It's an uncommon feat to be able to be so empowered to plant the seed of love and Krishna consciousness in another person. And I highly salute that him and Mother Prema were able to do that. And at the funeral, I was so moved by Nirguna and Renal's children, all chanting the Nishingadev prayer with so much of feeling and devotion that I'm sure you all watched. And I could say that his spirit lives on in them. And I pray that if they ever feel a need, they would reach out to us if there's anything we could do for them. Prabhavisnu Prabhu, his enthusiasm to serve was never ever deterred by his heart issues or by health. And that's why right up until the end, I can well imagine how he was feeling. And yet he called out to the Lord, and this was incredible. He had such, in conclusion, I would say that he had such a taste and an affinity to hear Gaura Katha. A few times I gave class from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I was very humbled by the fact that he sat and he listened to the entire class, and he came to me on many occasions, and he said to me that if I could, I should speak the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita and tape it and send it to him, because he feels that he would love to listen to this katha. And I'm sure right now he's part of the Gaura Leela himself, having served in this earth planet in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So I pray that he empowers me to also follow in the footsteps as a servant of Gauranga Mahaprabhu in the ways that Srila Prabhupada has benedicted us with. He really appreciated our system of using PowerPoints in preaching. He said that it takes preaching to another level. He never failed to encourage another devotee in my presence with myself, my husband, and many others that I witnessed. He never ran short of words of encouragement in the fatherly spirit that he embodied. And this has made an indelible mark in my lowly existence. And I will always remember him as an embodiment of love, knowledge, service, exemplary Vaishnav, and so much more. And in the way that he left, as Mukunda Prabhu just was speaking so eloquently about just now, I remember it being said that it is not how you begin a race, but how you finish the race. And I could see that from the way he chose to leave, not in the hospital, even though the doctors threatened many a time that he will not survive every heart operation he went to. He, by sincere desire, he left in the company of loved ones with the loving holy name in his hand. And these are such tough times for us because there are so many death notices coming every minute. I'm sure you're all experiencing this. But the only thing... The only thing that pacifies me is that this world is known as Durga Dham, and it is a prison house. So those that escape the prison, there's no cause of lamentation if they join the dancing party of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as I'm happy to say with full conviction that on the strength of Prabhupada's promise, Prabhavisnu Prabhu has done so. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Prabhavisnu Prabhu ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you very much, Adudasi. It's a pity we didn't have a mic when we moved to the academy in 1995 to record the band. I think it was called a Goranga band. Prabhavisnu Prabhu, he was expert in guitar, and he played what he called the Spanish style. It was very fast, very vibrant, and it was ecstatic. All right, we'd like to ask Kirtan Prabhu to please share his remembrance.
Hare Krishna, everybody. I'd just like to share two memories of very recently that were shared between myself and my dear Kaka with all of you. And they're quite wonderful lessons that he imparted to me. So the first one goes back to the 7th of June, I think in 1989. So recently I met him at his house on one of my visits, and we had breakfast together, myself, Ranal, his family, my Kaka Kaki, and we got speaking about a program that was hosted at his home, our family home back in Durban, And in 89, I think maybe 5 or 6 or 7 sannyasis were there, or some of them weren't. Some of the gurus today weren't sannyasi back then, but His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj was there, and there was a program, and my grandmother was still alive. And somewhere during the course of this program, she had crossed the road or went across the road, and she had collapsed, and she was brought back into the house. And he was telling me this, narrating the story back to me, this actual experience, And when she was brought back in, she was in many ways confirmed as she had passed on, And at that point, everybody had gathered around her and started chanting and was praying for her. And eventually, some time later, she literally woke up. She literally just sat up and started clapping, and she had come back. So eventually, everybody asked, I think, I'm not too sure on the specifics or the details, but it's either my Prabhavisnu asked or His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami asked, what happened? And you back? And my grandmother responded saying, she wasn't done serving the Vaishnavas, so she couldn't leave. So she had to come back. So this happened, and the next day at about, I'm not too sure again, 2 or 3 p.m. on the 8th of June, she left her body chanting on her japa. And his point to me was, we need to remain in the same mood as our grandmother, as Aji, because it's more pleasing to Krishna to serve the Vaishnavas, that when it came time for her to leave, she chose to stay and finish her service. So that was a very wonderful memory he he recently, a couple of months ago, took me back down. And I wanted to share that. And the lesson there is our service to the Vaishnavas will always please Krishna more than anything. So he reinforced that. And the second one is kind of like everybody has shared tonight. We all know His Grace Prabhavisnu Das as an amazing father, amazing Vaishnava, a really intelligent person, dedicated to his preaching, and underlined with the humorous nature he also had. So we all can, I'm sure, agree that whenever Prabhavisnu Das gave class, everybody was captivated and paid attention. Why? Because it was always dovetailed with some humor to keep you engrossed. So once after, I'm not too sure, it could not have been last year, but before this pandemic has had hit, he had given class in the Lanesia temple, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So the next time I visited him, I told him, Kaka, I really have to tell you that I really don't know how you do it, but I love that you do. It's just, and he's like, what is that, son? I was like, every time you give a class, it's the best. I can't help but, pay attention. And I find that so amazing. There's always the right amount of humor in it to keep everybody engaged. So his response to that was very simple and straightforward. In my years of preaching, I had to learn more and more innovative ways for preaching to become more and more relevant and impactful. So the reason why the humor is there is because it's part of my nature, but also an enablement, a tool for me to ensure that I'm doing as much as I can possibly do to ensure that the audience listening to this class is going to absorb it. So there'll be different people in the class. There may be elderly devotees, there may be kids. It doesn't matter. But therein lies the opportunity to ensure that it was impactful, that somebody in this class paid attention and remembered and attained the benefit of it. So I think that was for me the second memory I wanted to share, and the lesson I've personally learned, that when we're out there and we have any opportunity to preach, we should remember that it must be impactful. It has to have substance. And he found that in the way he dovetailed the humor. So those are my two memories. Oh, and the last thing I want to share is my last conversation with him. He left an instruction, and I just think we should share it. I mean, I should share it. And that was that we should surrender, surrender, surrender. Just simply pray to Krishna. This was my last conversation with him. Hare Krishna and Prabhavisnu Das ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for sharing those wonderful memories. Yes, surrender, surrender, surrender. And Srila Prabhupada was also very humorous. Prabhupada, in many, many occasions, Prabhupada would laugh, and many devotees share when Prabhupada would laugh, it was oceanic. Practically the whole, whole room, all the devotees would feel Prabhupada's humor, because it's an interesting contrast, right? Someone who's like a acharya figure is very stern, is giving the very grave, giving the most, profound philosophy. Yet Prabhupada was very personal, very human-like, very humorous, and this is what really touched devotees. So no doubt, Prabhu also, this is also what touched many devotees, is that his humor, very wonderful humor. Thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure. Hare Krishna.
All right, we'll get Mother Shobha, and then after that, Abhishek can share. Shobha's phone, iPhone. Your hand is raised. Would you like to share?
Hello. Hi,
right.
can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Okay. And this is Kayuri on behalf of the Chiba family. So Prabhavisnu Das was our Masa. And on behalf of my dad and mom, Dr. and Mrs. Chiba, and the rest of the Chiba family, you have always been in our lives and sharing your knowledge about Krishna consciousness with us. We remember with fond memories the times we spent together, when you'd make a pit stop in Johannesburg on your way to Costa, where you were a principal from a very young age. We fondly remember a speech you once wrote for us, entitled, a world of girls, where you described and emphasized the spiritual essence of girls, which we used in many speech contests successfully. You were always complimentary of all the girls, nieces, and granddaughters in the family. You would compliment us on our cooking, prasadam, and our lively spirits. On behalf of my dad, Dr. Chiba, I must say that he is just too emotional to say anything. They were so close, but he misses him dearly. He will miss their spiritual, animated conversations about life, death, and consciousness. They had a strong brotherly attachment to each other, even though they were brother-in-laws. And they were partners in crime when it came to the Nehru family, who they both loved dearly. On behalf of my mom, Rani, you were an exemplary husband to my sister, and you leave a big gap in her life and in our lives. Mom is the sister to Rani, is the sister to Prema. My mom says that as the Nehru family, they have known him from a young age and have fond memories of all the times that they shared in Glencoe together. To Sean, Nishi, Renelle, Vana, Sherry, Donnie, and the kids, we know that we have all been left with a huge void, which cannot be filled. Our sincere sympathy and strength to you all. But we know that Dad's teachings resonates and stays alive in our hearts and souls. Lots and lots of love from the Chiba family. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Yes, we can always remember how a great personality like Prabhu will live this life and remember those wonderful qualities. When we remember those qualities and that personality, it gives us solace. And in this way, we can continue our life trying to follow in his footsteps, trying to serve him in this way as well. Thank you very much. Abhishek Prabhu, you can share as well.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. My obeisances to all the Vaishnavas and family assembled this evening. It is a very special day to say something very sincere from my heart in glorification of my Kaka, Grace Prabhavisnu Das. And I don't have something too lengthy to share, but I wanted to just summarize a few things that I can truly say have left an impression in my life and has contributed to my personal spiritual growth. And I can say in a very natural human sense that growing up in a family where we come together and pray together is a very powerful lesson, especially in the climate we find ourselves today. To live in a family where brothers have each other for all shared experiences is really beautiful. And I'm very grateful to my Kaka for being encouraging and showing us by example how to really put Srila Prabhupada's words to practice. We've heard so many glorifications today about many of his feats and his wonderful qualities. And just as his nephew, I can say that I feel truly blessed that I can say I am a part of his family for the amazing service he's done for Srila Prabhupada, for being an amazing brother to his siblings, to see the loving exchanges. It shows us that Krishna consciousness is not just something where you put a dhoti and a tilak on. He showed us how to practically live that. And you know, it's really something we can learn more from him, and watching him evolve into his older self and never finding an excuse for his health condition to hinder his devotional service, I think is a tremendous example for many of us. There's many hindrances that this world will offer, but he's gone above and beyond. You know, we were discussing in our little family sangha how he had had so many encounters where he was about to leave this world. And somehow he stayed back, and he was managing to continue with very little material capacity on his body. He still was able to continue serving and offering that beacon of light and love to all of us. And the last memory or the last experience I had with him was a very special one. And I'm going to just share one part about it, just so it can, for everyone on the call today, we can understand just what a loving presence he had and how what it is to be a devotee. You know, as he got older, he would say less to me, and he would just smile this big, beautiful smile. And it was almost like I had to go and beg him, like, tell me something, share with me. And he just smile and he'd say, Chant Hare Krishna, Chant Hare Krishna. I'd say, Kaka, tell me more. And so the last exchange we had with him, we were sitting around his dinner table. And he sat and he held my hand in his hand. All of us cousins know this all too well. That when he held us very firmly, very strongly, with all the affection. And he shared a very intimate experience of what he had in his last, almost passing away. And the summary of that was, he said, do not take for granted the power of chanting the holy name. He said, this material world is very ghastly. Going out of his body is very ghastly. He said, but when you have Srila Prabhupada and you have his holy name, there is nothing to fear. And then he looked me in the eye, he leaned forward, he looked me in the eye, he said, there is nothing to fear. Just chant Hare Krishna. And then he put this big, beautiful smile back on his face. So with all my love and gratitude, I'd like to offer my deepest love and respects to him and to all of you for taking the time today to come and share some of these memories with us. We offer our respects to you also, and thank you for your prayer. His grace Prabhavisnu Das Ki Jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for sharing those wonderful memories. I've sent some private messages to some devotees. Govardhan Prabhu, who's also here, Shamsundar Prabhu, Dhruvananda Prabhu, Mother Jayananda Prabhu. And if you'd like to speak, just let me know in the chat. In the meantime, I'll get Rasastali. You can share.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'd like to offer my heartfelt condolences to the family, Mother Prema Bhakti, and everyone. It's been a real shock when we heard about Prabhavisnu leaving this world. For me, what I wanted to share was the nature of Prabhavisnu Prabhu and how he always treated us whenever we met him. We would go and offer our obeisances, but he would actually give us big hugs. And his hugs were like the best because he would give us these teddy bear hugs. And that was his fatherly nature. And I'm so grateful for having his association from the time my spiritual life started in this movement. And he was always caring, very, very loving to us. And he shared so many lessons just by his daily engagements with us. And you know, he always would bless my son Yadav when he heard about him, and when he met him. He actually gave him, the first time he met him, and when he was a baby and we came to the temple, he gave us Lakshmi, and we said, no, Prabhu. He says, no, that's tradition. You must give, you have to give your blessings, and you have to. So he gave Lakshmi for Yadav. And he always told me, he encouraged, he says, you're growing him up very nicely, keep doing that. My personal dealings with Prabhavisnu Prabhu was when Mother Prema Bhakti was really ill, and I was I heard about this fresh turmeric and how it helps with her condition. And then I was trying to, get him to purchase the fresh turmeric instead of just the powdered turmeric, which is more potent. And then Prabhu was asking me, like, where could we get it? And then I also was telling him about how I had read, if you bring back memories of the times when you sing to somebody of like their childhood memories, and then it like helps the body. It like just brings these certain hormones which like heals. So then Prabhavisnu told me, he says, guess what? I serenade my wife every day and I sing to her. And so I was like, I was so impressed when he said that, because he loved singing and he always, he played instruments. And I was looking at the pictures that Akshara was posting, and yes, he would sing to Mother Prema Bhakti. He would sing lots of songs to her. And then the Mahamantra, he would sing the Mahamantra, and he would always be singing when he met us, like the Mahamantra in different tunes, and he'd be humming, and he was always jovial. So for me, I thought the way he had taken care of Mother Prema Bhakti was very, very special. He, he showed so much care for Mother Prema Bhakti right till the end. And he was such a great family man. He loved his family so intensely. He whatever values and traditions he had, he passed it on to all the family, his children, the grandchildren. And you can see their nature when they interact with you also. They have so much of love and care. So I also remember very clearly one day, this was when I was in the Sangeeta Natak Academy. There was something that was very special. It was a lesson, actually. Like I said, Prabhavisnu taught us many lessons. We had a Jagannath Rath Yatra festival, and Lord Jagannath was coming, and all the devotees were reaching to take, touch the Lord and take blessings. And then I started following, so I was also going to reach, and then he said, are you Brahman initiated? So I said, no. So he said to me, we shouldn't be, we should understand that if we don't want to lose our spiritual credits, we have to be in that category to receive the mercy. And I didn't feel disheartened. I actually felt so happy because, it's hard to get spiritual credits, but I understood that he was teaching me beautiful lessons. And then I always got his mercy for Rath Yatra. Like every Rath Yatra, wherever I was, whether it was Durban and whether it was Joburg, whether it was Lenasia, and wherever the lordships was, he was there on the chariot. And so he then just always gave me more and more mercy of Lord Jagannath. So he would always send Mahaprasad and garlands. And so I have so many fond memories. And even when I would I have a habit of taking lots of pictures of all the devotees. And so I would always photograph him when he would be doing the arti, or when he would give class. And then he would come back and he'll ask, did I come out good? Am I looking good? So he would his nature was always so jovial and so spirited. And that's what I appreciated about him. And I can tell you that there will never be another Prabhupada Vyasa Puja festival the same without Prabhavisnu Prabhu. He made it special. He made his love for Srila Prabhupada was so evident in how he always spoke about Prabhupada, how he brought the teachings with his family, how he shared it. And so for me, I remember all Prabhupada festivals as the heart of Prabhavisnu Prabhu. And there was something else I wanted to share. Just left my mind. Oh yes, the one year, it was 2014. It was 2014. I remember it clearly because it was the year I just found out I was pregnant on the day before Janmashtami. And then on Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja, I was just looking at Prabhupada, and they were doing the Abhishek. And then Prabhavisnu looked at me and he says, come and do the Abhishek. And I was shocked. I was like, oh no, why would he ask me to do? And then he's given me the mercy. And then I said, Prabhu, but can I? And he says, of course, you have to bathe for Srila Prabhupada. So I was given that opportunity on that day also by Prabhavishnu's mercy to get Prabhupada's mercy. So there was one very nice instruction also that struck very, very deeply in my heart when Prabhavisnu says, he says, when you're coming into the temple, at the gates, just leave all your drama, leave all your problems, leave everything. You're entering Shri Nitai Gaura Hari's home. And he says, do you know what home that is? That's like the best place to ever be. So leave all of your baggage at the gates and then enter and always smile. And he always smiled, he always laughed, he cracked so much jokes while giving class. If you did not laugh in his class, then you have to seriously have a mental check, because he was the most funniest person when he gave classes. And he would never be afraid. He was very brave. He was very such a strong preacher. So I'm so grateful to be in his association, to learn so many lessons from him. And I'm also so grateful that we have this opportunity to have forums like this, because I remember, you know, this, my dad says, it's not like you have to celebrate in good times, but you should always be there when someone leaves their body, and you know, give all the support. And I just followed that always, like whenever someone left this world, I would try to be at the funerals. And for me, because of COVID, it was so difficult that we, you know, we couldn't be at that time with the family and everybody. So this opportunity that's been given to us to have these memorial programs, to share the love that we have of such great personalities, we very, very fortunate. So thank you for allowing us for this opportunity. And we will always remember such a great devotee in amongst us. Prabhavisnu Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you very much for sharing. Yes, Prabhavisnu Prabhu was very expert in Krishna consciousness, and he also was very expert in making people happy by increasing their happy hormone, oxytocin. Wonderful. Mother Hemavati Radhika, you can speak, and then after that, Damodar Prabhu. Mother Hemavati.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hari
Can you hear
Bol.
me?
Yes, we can hear
Hare-
you.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our most humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to our beloved Prabhavisnu Prabhu. We offer our sincere and heartfelt condolences to the family and all the Vaishnavas. So His Grace Prabhavisnu Prabhu was an exemplary and outstanding Vaishnav. The quality that touched our hearts the most about Prabhu was his love for Radha Krishna Gaurnitai, Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj Bhakti Charu Swami was an example of a personification of love, and Prabhavisnu Prabhu understood this aspect so perfectly, and the proof was his glorious departure. A true son of Guru Maharaj and a wonderful example for us to follow. Despite Prabhu's health, he was always fixed up in his service, which he did joyfully and smilingly and happily. And Prabhu always inspired Nalanikanta and myself in our Krishna consciousness so much by his beautiful classes, by the abhisheks, by the weddings, by his love, his care. Prabhu was an eloquent speaker, and he was a wonderful author, and his English was of a very high standard. He always showed us so much love and care. He went out of his way to show us love and care. He was so kind to us. Our beloved, jolly big brother. We were his little sister G, how he used to call us. And we would always, and you know, one thing about Prabhavisnu, he'd always be pushing us forward to serve. He'd always engage us, even though we're so insignificant and unqualified, but he was so merciful to us like this. So we always kept in touch with Prabhu just to see how he and Mataji were doing, because they were both such an inspiration to us. And this was our greatest blessing and fortune, that we have had such a precious Chintamani association with Prabhu. We pray to, we want to thank Prabhu, these insignificant servants of yours. Thank you, Prabhu, for everything that you've done for us. We do so with grateful hearts. And we pray to Prabhavisnu Prabhu with all the love in our hearts to become dedicated, surrendered, and sincere in trying to love Krishna, in loving Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and all the devotees, to become able servants. We pray to meet Prabhu again and serve him again. And we're really going to miss his most loving and wonderful association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother Hemavati. Nimai Singh. And then after Nimai, Damodar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So my dad would like to sing a quick
Wonderful.
song for, so we're just going to
Okay.
do it from here. I'm going to do the audio from the song. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Wait, hold on. Many years ago, we were a threesome. In 2003, we became a twosome. And now, 2021, I am a lonesome. So, the song that I'm going to sing is called Lonesome Me. I hope you heard it before. It goes like this. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Madhushware, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Madhushware, Greheta Govanyeta Kum, Radha Hari Bole Dako, Greheta Govanyeta Kum, Radha Hari Bole Dako, Sukha Dukha Bolo Nako, Adane Harinam Goro Re, Jai Gaura Madhushware, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Madhushware, Maya Jale Bajao, Achami Chakalo, Maya Jale Bajao, Achami Chakalo, Ekono Chaitanya Paye, Radha Madhavana, Odore, Jai Gaura Madhushware, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Madhushware, Jivana hoy lese, Lobo Jire Rishike, Jivana hoy lese, Lobo Jire Rishike, Bhakti Vinodo
Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jai Gora Madhusware, Jai Gora Madhusware.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhavisnu Das ki
Yeah,
jai.
wonderful. Thank you very much for that wonderful tribute. I'm sure Prabhu will be is dancing, and yes, we separated physically, but not in spirit. Prabhu is there. Please make some more recordings so that we can hear and share with the devotees. Thank you very much. So we like to get Damodar Prabhu. After Damodar Prabhu, we'll get Govardhan Prabhu and then Renal. Damodar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Okay, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the opportunity, Shingananda Prabhu. When we received the news of His Grace Prabhavisnu Prabhu's passing, it was a real shock. However, the way Prabhu lived his life and the way he lived, he actually set a wonderful example for all of us. And we are grateful to him for all the time that we had with him in his loving, jovial manner. Prabhavisnu Prabhu was a very approachable person, although he was very learned, a school principal, and he had that stature, he had that presence about him. Yet, whenever we had met him, as was mentioned previously, he actually embraced us with his loving hug, and that was so wonderful. Many times Prabhavisnu Prabhu mentioned this example when he attended Mangal Arati. The one time he had attended Mangal Arati, and then I'm not sure when any of the speakers spoke about this, but he was still new, and he came in through the back, and he was actually on the altar, and the devotees were calling out to him, trying to get him off the altar, and he thought they were waving to him. But anyway, in his jovial manner, he actually described this pastime. And the way he lived his life was actually very exemplary in that he explained to us that being in Grihastha life, it's also a wonderful opportunity to preach and to live your life in such a manner that others can see that through the Grihastha ashram, one can practice Krishna consciousness and one can preach Krishna consciousness very effectively. So when Prabhavisnu Prabhu used to perform the yajnas, the fire sacrifice, the first time I saw this, it was like something else, because normally when we attend a Hindu function, the priest is performing the function, and the other side there is a band playing if it's a wedding, and people are talking and a whole lot of things like that. Whereas Prabhavisnu Prabhu set a wonderful example. He actually said to us, please quiet. And for those of us that came from a Hindu background, that thought now the fire sacrifice is going on, now it's a chance for us to talk, he actually put a stop to that very quickly. And the way he performed that fire sacrifice, I know also the clicking of the hands, it's something that we recall, reciting mantras from the Garuda Puran, purificatory mantras, and the way he performed it in terms of the layout and everything like that, and explaining as he went along. It was really an eye-opener, and from there on, our love for him just grew and grew further. And he had a really big heart, and so do his family members. He had invited us many times to his home. I can remember the one time we went for Prema Bhakti Mataji's birthday, and we used to call him Aja because Akshara used to call him Aja, and Subal Saka Prabhu, he used to jokingly refer to Prabhavisnu Prabhu as Aja. And when from that time onwards, in the late 90s, we continued calling him Aja as well. When we went for this birthday function, Prema Bhakti Mataji's birthday, they were all clapping 1, 2, 3, Hare Krishna, like that, according to the number of years of her birthday. It was really wonderful. And the whole family singing together, opening their hearts. Yeah. So we continue to reminisce on this. But one very important thing that Prabhavisnu Prabhu said, which Radha Kund, who is sitting next to me here, said I must also mention. She doesn't have a voice, but she is reminding me here to actually state this, is that he has always indicated that we should fly our own airplane. So we have our family members, we have our spiritual master, and we take their blessings and we get their mercy. However, we need to make our own endeavor, and we should fly our own airplane. And in that, we have also explained to our family members that they need to do the same and encourage them in their Krishna consciousness like that. So there are many things to say. The way Prabhavisnu Prabhu used to conduct his classes also, I could see that he had researched, and as he paged through, he was quoting, and he was still, although he was looking at his notes, he was keeping in contact with the audience. The way he spoke was in such a eloquent manner that he captivated the audience. And every now and then, whenever he could see the audience was drifting, he was not scared. And some of us would be, a bit afraid to take the audience to task, but not Prabhavisnu Prabhu. He used to just say very nicely and coolly, people should keep quiet and pay attention. So he actually used to call people to order in a very loving manner. So thank you for arranging this memorial. We really appreciate it. To the family members, Pranal, Nirguna Mataji, Sean Prabhu, and the rest of the family members. As we indicated to Pranal Prabhu, it seemed like a long time ago, but it was just over a week ago. Our thoughts and prayers remain with you. We are still with you in this journey, and we are comforted by the fact that Prabhavisnu Prabhu is back home with Krishna. So thank you very much. His Grace Prabhavisnu Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you very much, Damodar Prabhu. Yes, very apt and important analogy and example that Prabhavisnu Prabhu shared, which Prabhupada himself quoted very often, that we can take help when the plane is on the ground. We take help from everyone, but once the plane lifts off, then we on our own. So very, very important and pertinent. Now we'll request Govardhan Prabhu to please share his memory.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Nishingananda Prabhu. My obeisances to Prabhavisnu Prabhu's family. Thank you very much for sharing such an exalted and special devotee with us for so many decades. We'll have so much of wonderful recollections, and we've heard so much of wonderful recollections today. We read in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 4th canto just how pleased Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is when a devotee simply greets others with tolerance, mercy, friendship, and equality. Vaishnava relationships is the sweetest. It's the manifestation of spiritual reality. You would recall in the Chaitanya Charitamrita when Maharaj Pratrapurudra was observing how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was interacting with his devotees. It actually transformed the king's life. The king was seeing that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would receive each devotee with a garland, with sandalwood, and take them into his loving embrace. Now, when I think of Prabhavisnu Prabhu, and I've known him since I was 14 years old, Prabhavisnu Prabhu, he imbibed this mood of loving exchanges. And that's the secret to please Lord Chaitanya. Devotees are very, very dear to Krishna. And Krishna has, and they have a very special place in Krishna's heart. This is the conclusion of the scriptures. This is the exalted position of a devotee, and this is the exalted position of our Prabhavisnu Prabhu. Just knowing this one fact has the full capacity to give us salvation. If we nurture relationships with conviction of this single point, because Krishna says that the worship of my devotee is better than the worship of me. Mat bhakta puja bhayadikaha. This is so special that Krishna even mentions it in Bhagavad Gita. In 9:13, he says, Mahatmanas tu mam partha. Daivim prakritam ashritaha. That such a devotee, a Mahatma, is always under the internal energy of the Lord. So unless one is in the association of devotees, his devotional service does not mature. So Prabhavisnu Prabhu, he helps so many devotees, countless number of devotees, mature in their devotional service. And this goes to his eternal credit. Bhaktamam abhijanati. Krishna can only be understood by devotional service. So Krishna, he gives all protection to the devotee, like the cow gives milk to a newborn calf. A person who has not received the dust from a devotee on his head, the Shastra says is certainly a dead body. Krishna is called Bhaktanam Mana Vardhana, that he who increases the honor of his devotees. And Krishna wants us to glorify his devotee. He's committed to that. So today we have that opportunity. This is what you're doing. Bhaktanam Mana Vardhana. We want to honor this very special devotee. Of course, the association of a devotee transfers the contents of one's heart into another's heart. And we heard from some recollections today how Prabhavisnu Prabhu exemplified this. The heart is like a crystal, and it naturally becomes the color by which it's surrounded by. If one associates with materialist, and one becomes tinged with materialism. Associates with a sincere devotee, one becomes a sincere devotee. And that's why Lord Kapila Dev, he warns, must be careful of bad association, fearing materialistic association. Sages in the past have actually gone to the forest, for one consciously or unconsciously adopts the characteristics of those with whom one associates. And with Prabhavisnu Prabhu, those who have associated with him, served with him in his many, many Rath Yatras. What an exalted person. How deeply he was absorbed in service. So, devotees are moving holy places. Yudhishthira Maharaj told Vidura, my lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. So you turn all places into places of pilgrimage. And even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that the Ganges can free one from one's sin after prolonged bathing, but simply remembering a devotee, one becomes purified. Hence, the devotee must be more superior to the Ganges. So this is what we are doing today. We are remembering a very, very special grandson, and so much for his movement. We depend on the goodwill of the Lord. We think of the Lord as our final moment, is the highest ambition of a devotee. Yeah, we have somebody who has exemplified that, who has pretty much led a life like many of us do. So there's hope for us. We know that we are tiny and we are helpless. We are in Krishna's hands. We legitimately accept everything as Krishna's kindness. And this is the consciousness of the spiritual world. But of course, without the devotee, how can we remember Krishna? They make it easy for us to remember him through the service and their example. Krishna awards his pure devotee a license to freely dispense his mercy. So the devotee is in that sense Krishna's agent. Prabhavisnu Prabhu was a very special agent, a super agent of Krishna's mercy. Just like electricity is manifested in an electric bulb, Krishna's omnipresence is perceived and manifested by his devotees. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as you know, he recommends 5 things, 5 items of devotional service: to chant, live in a holy place, worship the deity, read Srimad Bhagavatam, and to serve the devotees. I remember Prabhavisnu Prabhu from the very early days in his house in Nesapingo, you know, how much service he did for the Sankirtan devotees, how often you'd have devotees over for prasad. So clearly we had in our midst a very special devotee. He rendered exceptional service, so much of sacrifice. He was there when I was still in school. He was there when we did Sankirtan together. He did my wedding ceremony. He was the priest. And, you know, in that sense, I have many, many connection points to him. And in the end, he left in the shelter of the Holy Name. So we deeply appreciate this wonderful Vaishnava. We want to thank his family for sharing such an exceptional devotee with us. And we want to offer our unlimited obeisances to Prabhavisnu Prabhu and thank him and pray to him that we too might have success like he has had in devotional life. All glories to Prabhavisnu Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Krishna.
Nishi.
Thank you very much, Govardhan Prabhu, for sharing that wonderful memories of Govardhan Prabhu. No doubt he was a super devotee, and just by being in his association, we can recollect, I'm sure everyone can recollect that Prabhavisnu Prabhu never criticized anyone. He always appreciated, always glorified, and he was an embodiment of Krishna consciousness. So definitely wonderful, great soul. Ronel Prabhu.
Say good tree bears good fruit.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. And Hare Krishna to all the devotees, friends, and
Ronel Prabhu, do you have 2 phones there? Do you have, because it's echoing? So maybe one, if there's multiple phones, just put one with the volume, or you can just use one phone.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Perfect. Thank you.
Prabhu, would like to extend on behalf of our family our heartfelt thanks to all the devotees, friends, well-wishers, my cousins. We don't think that this would have been an easy process if it wasn't for the support of the devotee community. And I'm just going to hand over to my brother to say a few words as well. Sean.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Hare Krishna, devotees, Hare Krishna, to all our families and friends who are also locked down. On behalf of our Mata, Mother Prema Bhakti, she is not feeling well now and she's actually lying down. She wanted us to thank you, Nishinga Prabhu, for arranging this Zoom meeting where people can talk about our Pita who's passed away. And what she would like to listen to the recording of it a little later on. We can make that available for us. We want to thank everybody for sharing so many views and experiences that they had with our Pita. We really appreciate it. It's really been tough, and we thank everybody for their support. And we would like to wish everybody well. And remember, as Sri Prabhupada said, we must just keep on chanting Hare Krishna, and we must all be happy. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sean. There's just a few memories that I would like to share. I would rather try to focus on happy memories so that I don't get sad and depressed, which is something that comes quite easily these past few days. My mind goes back to the time when my dad used to get us up at the crack of dawn, and we used to all have a bath and put our tilak, and we used to make our way to the Keturich ashram for the Mangal Aarti. And I can recall the the peacefulness at the temple and how sublime it was. Sitting there in the temple room, there was a big crowd of international devotees at the time at the temple, and the atmosphere in the temple was always spiritually charged. And being there for all those festivities really is something that has really touched all of us and inspired our family. So much so that today, that there's 8 grandchildren here, and everybody is Krishna conscious. My father, it's only now that he is not here that I realize what a special soul he actually is. The reason being is that due to his humble nature, he wasn't somebody that would impose his views upon you or tell you to do something. He basically led by example. And we followed that example that he led from. He did not have to tell us, don't do this or don't do that. He just led by example. And it's now that I realize that my father was actually giving us instructions for life, because now things are clearer for me. I can see, okay, why am I not serving somebody with my left hand? So it's simple things like that. If I just have to recall something, that he's shown us how to live and how to live, according to Krishna conscious standards and principles, and to maintain the proper decorum and etiquette as human beings. I think it goes beyond religion as well. He's taught us how to respect people. He set this wonderful example where he basically lived for people. It doesn't matter whether the person was a devotee or a non-devotee or somebody he met in a supermarket. He had this uncanny ability to just inspire people. And it's that ability that I hope that he shares with all of us. The day after my Peter passed away, I could feel his blessings coming. And I told a few devotees who were sending me messages and so on, please receive his blessings. Don't ask for his blessings, receive it, because the blessings are coming. And I hope that you are all receiving his blessings. I am only understanding the magnitude of the person he was now. And we will all love him and respect him and remember him, and remember the fact that it was all about Krishna and spreading the holy name and love of God. If I wanted to see a smile on my father's face, all I had to do was to log on to Mayapur TV or Radha Desh Melos or anything that was related to Krishna, and you'd see him smiling. And that's a legacy that he's left us. And it's a very, very big gap personally, I would say, in our family, not having my father around anymore. I feel like there's like a million things that I still need to tell him, and a million more. And I was fortunate in that my mom and dad were living with us. And when people say thank you for taking care of them, I actually want to say something else. I want to thank my parents for taking care of us. I want to thank my dad personally for taking care of us, because it was through him that we are where we are today. And it was his strong arm that served as this barrier of protection. Not having a father around now, I realized that I was a 47-year-old kid all along. And that's a comfort of having a father like Prabhavisnu, a 47-year-old child. And now that he's not here, I realize, hey, I don't have a father. And without getting too emotional about it, but I'm sure those who don't have the fathers know what I'm talking about. Not having him here is quite heartbreaking. It's earth-shattering. But fortunately, he has prepared us. He has prepared us for this situation, and my mom as well. It's not easy, but we are persevering. We're doing the best we can. And I don't think that a day will go by where somebody won't be thinking of him somewhere in the world. He used to always say that he's got 150 to 200 WhatsApp messages that he has to respond to. And it was a priority for him. And I can understand that that was his way of preaching. He couldn't physically get to people due to the lockdown and all of that. But his preaching was still continuing, you know. And so he adapted to change, and he adapted very fast. And he's left a gap in so many people's lives. And I think that what would please him, if there's anything that we could all do, is for us to remember Krishna and to always chant the holy names of the Lord, and always keep Krishna in the center of our hearts, so that when it is our time, then we can also pass on the way he did, chanting the Maha Mantra. And he was so fixed on chanting the Maha Mantra at that point that he had zoned us out, the few of us that were there with him. You know, it was myself, Akshara, and Isha, and my mom. And he was completely in a trance-like state, just chanting away. And I'm sure that he would love for everybody to pass on in that way. And he passed away sitting up straight, like a spiritual warrior. You know, that's the type of person he was, you know. And so he even died so perfectly as well. And all we need to remember is remember the holy name of the Lord. And so that when it is our time to go, because we were having discussions, he told me, you know, son, you can't worry about your wife, your children, your cars, your bank accounts, your insurance policies. None of those things are going to matter at the time of death, or your favorite child or your favorite grandchild. If you are going to concern yourself with those things at the time of death, then you will surely return to continue in this never-ending cycle of birth and death. And so he's shown us that it is possible to cross this ocean of birth and death. And he did it. And he did it just as he would do any other of his classes that he would conduct at the temple and so on, with a lot of class and a lot of bhakti. So that's my dad. We will love him forever. I will love him indefinitely. But, you know, I can already hear my dad telling you, but you must love Srila Prabhupada more. So even now, with him not being here, he's still telling us what to do and preaching to us, and always setting us straight. And for that, Dad, we will always love you. And to the devotee community, friends and family and so on, please be inspired by what he said. All he wanted for people was love of God, and that's all we need to set us free. So thank you so much once again, dear devotees and friends and family. Hare Krishna. Nishinga Prabhu, thank you so much for putting this together. We are so deeply touched with this. Thank you so much, Prabhu. And for all those who took the time to participate in this, we will arrange something at some other point when this lockdown and all these things have passed, where we can truly honor him and have prasadam and so on. He lived for that. You know, my dad and serving devotees and so on is very special to him. So at some point we will do this. We will just wait for the situation to change. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for sharing those wonderful memories. And it's my great pleasure to be able to render this little insignificant service to the family members and the devotees. We can understand that a good tree bears good fruit. So no doubt, Mother Param Bhakti and Prabhu Prabhu have, left us wonderful fruits. And we can see he really was empowered and empowered the children to be Krishna conscious. He would always tell me that he loves Srila Prabhupada so much. In fact, he told me that I love Srila Prabhupada more than my spiritual master. And one time he revealed his heart to Srila Bhakti Charumaj, and he told Srila Bhakti Charumaj, Guru Maj, I have to say this, but I love Srila Prabhupada more than you. And Srila Bhakti Charumaj just started giggling, like a very hearty laugh. He just started giggling because, in fact, Srila Bhakti Charumaj also, he said, my goal is to attach you to Krishna. My goal is to take you to Krishna, to Srila Prabhupada, and to make you more attached to Srila Prabhupada. He was a perfect transparent via media. And Prabhavisnu Prabhu, no doubt, was very, very attached to Srila Prabhupada, and he has taught the family members, yes, we should become attached to Srila Prabhupada. But at the same time, the beauty of our family, Srila Prabhupada is like the grandfather, and we are a family. So we really are connected. And your relationship and everyone's relation with Prabhavisnu is not temporary. These are eternal relationships. Why? Because it's centered around Krishna. It's centered around Srila Prabhupada. And these are eternal personalities. Therefore, our relationship is eternal. So we should no doubt cherish, keep those relationships alive through service and remembrance. And we will definitely meet again with all the great personalities. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Jayananda Prabhu, and then Anuj. Anju. Jayananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I think we got load shedding here, so I'm gonna put my video off. It doesn't look nice.
No problem. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for giving us the opportunity to honor and glorify His grace, Prabhavisnu Prabhu. I first met Prabhavisnu Prabhu and his family, the whole Singh family, Prabhavisnu, Surinarayan and Nareshwar, all of them in K2H days, in the late 70s. And I think we really got a bit more close in Radhanath days. I know when we did the first Durban Chariot Festival, His Holiness Indraduma Swami Maharaj was the chairperson, and he was giving us instructions and our services. And at that time, I know Prabhavisnu Prabhu was the leader of the congregation, because he was practically the only initiated congregation devotee at that time, because in those days only full-time devotees were initiated, but he was the exception. So yeah, and we had to do the cooking for the festival. So at 2 in the morning, Prabhavisnu Prabhu was there with his whole family, and all of us was there. So because none of the congregation devotees were initiated, we had to do all the what so-called menial services, and we couldn't really go to do any service by the fire. That was somehow the case in those days. So we should clean all the vegetables and take it to Prabhavisnu Prabhu, and he was the only authorized bona fide devotee, because he was the only initiated devotee at that time from the congregation. Following Maharaj's instruction, Prabhavisnu should take all the boga and put it in the pot. And we should remember the first Raja Yatra, we made 60 pots of biryani. So all 60 pots were done like that. We should take it to him. He's the only one, put it into the pot, and Maharaj had the spoon and he was cooking. When Prabhavisnu should put the boga into the pot, whether it was the vegetables, the rice, the potatoes, or the beans, whatever it was, every time a bucket of boga went into the pot, all of us used to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That was with every bucket of boga and for all 60 pots. And that became the standard for the cooking for the Durban Festival Chariots, even up to today. For many years, we've been doing this. And I'm very pleased to note that although Prabhavisnu cooked for a few years and then did other services, but Renal Prabhu has been cooking from that time even up till today. He still goes and he cooks for the Durban Chariot Festival, even from Joburg, he still comes down. So it's very, very pleasing to note that such lovely service has gone up from generation to generation. It's very, very nice, pleasing. Prabhavisnu Prabhu did lots of service in the congregation, and it was very, very pleasing to all the devotees. But somehow he moved to Joburg, and we lost his association in Durban. But I was very fortunate. I came down here to Joburg some years later. And up here in Johannesburg, I somehow was managed to do this one book, the 40th anniversary for Sri Sri Nitai Gaurahari. And Prabhavisnu, I requested him to be the editor of the book. And at that time, he was going through very, very hard time with his health. And it was so bad that he should tell me, you're coming home, but I can't do much. So I told him, sit and I'll do whatever to do. At least you are there to like confirm and we can get things done. You told me, yes, come. But you told me, Jayananda Prabhu, you know, my health is so bad, I can't take 20 steps for the day. This is how poor he was in health. You mean you should just sit one place and then we should do the work? And he told me he's due for operation. So while doing the book like this for over those couple of weeks, it was pretty taxing on him and myself because I had more pressure because Prabhavisnu Prabhu couldn't do what we had to do. So I had to take on more of the load to do all these things. It came so heavy that time was running out. Then eventually we had no time to wait. I had to take the script, go and see Prabhavisnu in hospital when he was in ICU. And I should do editing with him right there to confirm things. This is how serious it got. And you told me, I told him you are sick. Can you come out of ICU? Then I'll attend to you. He told me, this is for Prabhupada. It's for Sri Sri Nitai Gaurahari. You just come. And I should spend hours with him in hospital just to do that book. And this is just shows the love that he had for the deity, the devotees, Srila Prabhupada, and ISKCON. He was so committed to service. I mean, although he himself couldn't really move, but he never refused any service that came his way. He told me that since he had this commitment, he must do it, he must fulfill it. And I was surprised that we worked like this, even those hard times. The deadline came and it was extended many, many times, and we came close to printing and we couldn't extend anymore. Even in the last moment, Prabhavisnu Prabhu couldn't help me anymore. I had to go and sit with Renal and his wife to do the final bit on that last day that it had to be printed. And they will remember this. In fact, it was the last few hours because it had to be printed that same day. And that was the last day of printing. Couldn't move anymore. So it was wonderful service that we did with the whole Singh family. I really appreciate those time. You remember that Dwakati spoke about our meeting here at our place on the 2nd of January this year. We met with a few devotees and he showed you that book where he had a personal signature. Actually, he personally signed that book for Dwakatish, for Dhruvananda, and Shamashundra, and myself. All four of us got personal signatures to the book, and we really appreciate that. I mean, it's something I don't think anyone else got. And just 3 days later, we miss him. You know, during the time, he even told me that I want you to reprint this book because he had no more copies. I mean, this book is needed for the funerals and everything else because there's nothing that's there to help and guide ISKCON. And this is like the law book for the service. So he told me 3 times in the presence of all devotees that he's entrusting the reprint of this book onto me. He had so much of, I don't know, faith in me to do this. And he told me he's got everything on his stick. Soon as I'm ready, just request it and he'll be there to reprint it. He left that service unto me. I don't know what to do, but now who expected this to happen? But we have this vacuum to fill, and hopefully someday we try to fulfill it. At that time, he spent like 5 or 6 hours with us, giving us such lovely Krishna conscious nectar. And when he was leaving, he thanked us for lovely time that we had, nice prasadam, good times. And he requested me to put on his shoes. I was so happy and thrilled that he asked me to do the service. You know, putting on his shoe wasn't that easy how you put anyone's shoes, because I had to do it the way that he wanted me to do. And the way that he wanted me to do it took me 10 minutes or something like that to put on his shoe. It was quite a hard struggle because I couldn't do it my way. Although I requested it, he gave specific instruction and everyone just had to wait. I had to get a chair for him, sit down, and his whole body was swollen. And then I was happy putting on his shoe. When he went home, he sent a message on WhatsApp, because we communicate on a daily basis. But he sent me a WhatsApp message, and I treasured that last message of appreciation and glorification, and there's a message about his shoes, which I really treasure, because that is the last moment I think any devotee that had. And I was very, very fortunate that I think the last program that he ever did was at my house. I think I was the last person to touch his divine feet. You know, so I feel very privileged, humble, and honored to have this such lovely divine association. And Prabhavisnu and myself, I think we've been communicating with this for the last few years in Johannesburg. We've been very, very close. Our messages were going on like on a daily basis. And I think the book has got us much more closer. And at that time, before he could leave, he also told me, Chainanda, can you and I get together and let's do another book? I was pretty shocked and surprised, but those were his words, that he wanted me to do another book with him. I feel very humble about this, because Prabhavisnu Prabhu did 18 books all by himself. But the last book, I think I was the only co-author of the book in his life. There is no other book like that. So I feel very, very fortunate to be so closely associated with Prabhavisnu and actually to do something together with him. Put my name to be next to his name is something really special, extremely special. And then he still requests that we do another book. I really feel extremely special. And thank Prabhu for even just to think about me, or even just to say those words. It means so much to me. And I'm very happy that now that he's in the spiritual world, and I know that he'll pave the way for all of us to join him one day. His Grace Prabhavisnu Prabhu Ki Jai.
Thank you very much, Jainam Prabhu. You were fortunate to serve his lotus feet and get his lotus dust. Now we can get in parampara, we can serve your lotus feet and get the dust from your lotus feet, so that we can get his mercy coming in disciplic succession. And you made a very important, wonderful point about his sacrifice in editing the book. In Nectar Devotion, Srila Prabhupada says that one of Krishna's amazing qualities is Krishna's gratitude. Krishna is eternally grateful. And Prabhupada gave also the example in 26 Avenue when this tramp came and went into the, Prabhupada was given the class, this tramp came, went into the bathroom, then he went out, he came back with some toilet paper. He put the toilet paper and then he left. And Prabhupada said, just see, his spiritual life has started. And Krishna will never, ever forget that service. So we know that Shishinitai Gohari, Srila Prabhupada, they will never, ever forget the sacrifice that Prabhavisnu Prabhu has done in so many areas of service, as explained in editing the books. And this is our good fortune, that whatever service we render to the mission of Lord Chaitanya in the service of Krishna, that goes eternally to our credit. So thank you very much for sharing that. Anju?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm from India, and I met Prabhuji once. I met Prabhuji once only for 15 minutes, and we were WhatsApp friends. And I always used to debate with Prabhuji on WhatsApp. Whenever Prabhuji discussed with me some spiritual topics, I always add few more lines and would discuss with Prabhuji or debate with Prabhuji, even though Prabhuji was so advanced devotee, and I'm not even a neophyte, and Prabhuji never got upset, and he enjoyed that I was adding more lines to whatever Prabhuji was talking to me. So on 6th January, Prabhuji sent me a message that, oh, Anju, I have to address a huge gathering. Please share with me something which, or tell me something which I would add in my discussion. Prabhuji and I were very close friends, and I always, Prabhuji used to tell me how much he likes masala dosa, and I would send him masala dosa pictures from India, like I'm having masala dosa, and he would appreciate it. And then he would say, "Where is salad? You're not having salad." Then I said, "No, Prabhuji, this is only masala dosa." So Prabhuji, I never thought that when Shyam Sundar Prabhuji told that Prabhavisnu Prabhuji soul has left his body, I couldn't believe it, and immediately messaged Prabhuji to check it, because there are so many Prabhujis who have similar names. So I just wanted to make sure it's not Prabhavishnu ji. And I immediately messaged Prabhuji and waited for a response, but I didn't get any. Then I understood, and I started crying because I was very attached to Prabhuji because of our discussion, and how Prabhuji was always, whenever I sent a message, always Prabhuji would reply. So I thought if I had to speak today, because if I don't, then Prabhuji would be upset, and I don't want to make Prabhuji upset. I want Prabhuji to be very happy because Prabhuji is in my heart, and I'm always going to miss Prabhuji. And today, when I got this notice that today's Zoom meeting, and there was Prabhuji's picture, and after that, the picture was not there. So I immediately went to Prabhuji's private message, and there was Prabhuji's picture was still there. I immediately saved it because I don't want to lose a good friend. At least I have Prabhuji's picture now. And I'm sorry. So even though I just met Prabhuji for 15 minutes, but I'm very close to Prabhuji, and I'm definitely gonna miss Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for sharing. If there's anything we can do to keep that connection, even though we are far, 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 far more insignificant than Prabhu Prabhu, but if there's any way we can keep in touch and try to keep that connection burning, we at your service. Please try to get in touch, and we'll try to serve as best as we can. He will also be happy that if you were asking him certain questions and he was answering, in that relationship, if we can continue and assist you, then it will be a wonderful service for him as well. All right. Nimai Singh. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
I'm
Krishna.
Rukmini.
Hare Krishna, Rukmini. Yeah.
I'm the daughter of Nareshwar and Vijay Lakshmi, Prabhavishnu's niece. So, hearing about Prabha passing away was absolutely devastating for all of us. I remember when we got the message, we were all just absolutely stunned because we could not believe, not for a moment, that Prabhu would have left us so suddenly. But on reflection, thinking about my wonderful uncle, there are so many different memories, and so many, I've spent a lifetime um, under his care, under his tutelage, and basically just being his daughter. I remember from as small as I was, before even going to school, I used to rush over to Prabha's house across the little drain here. And I used to hold his hand when he used to come home from work. And he would carry his briefcase and he will have a sweet there ready for me. And that our pastime started from as far back as I can remember. And he was not the typical uncle. In fact, he was the icon of all uncles, because he was not only was he our guru who taught us about Krishna, always from the time we were absolutely small, testing us on our slokas, testing us on our pronunciation, and basically just being his teacher self. He would also be the one to instill fun in it. I can remember so many times when he was in charge of directing the plays at Sri Sri Radha Radhanath, and he would ask us for our opinion as we started to get older. So I was thinking about the waves of the ocean, and I was thinking that maybe we could have these blue towels. And how do you think it would look if we had all of you girls and boys running across waving the towels? And his mind used to always be absorbed in Krishna, serving in whichever way he could be. And of course, the same is true for Matas, for Prema Bhakti. And that's how my life and my childhood revolves around beautiful memories just like that. And of course, as we got older, the memories and the lessons became a bit stricter. Prabha had the highest expectations from all of us. But sweetly enough, even when we didn't meet the expectations, he would be the first one not to chastise, but to point out just how good and how well we have actually done whatever it is we have achieved. He was never ever the type, although he was there always leading us towards Krishna, he was never ever the type of devotee or uncle or big father or Prabha, as we so lovingly called him. He would never ever be the one to force you into any direction. He was there literally as a guide. And all he would do was wait for you to be ready to take the next step in Krishna consciousness. And there he was, ready to assist. I remember my entire life, even when I was, I think, in grade 4, standard 2. Prabha was my pen pal when he was in Johannesburg. He was the principal in Johannesburg. And I used to write him letters and send it to him in pink and purple envelopes, and he would reply to me. So, like I'm saying, the most beautiful, beautiful pastimes. Even now, with Prabha's passing, he has taught us the final lesson of life, how to go back home, back to Godhead. And typical of Prabha, he lived a beautiful life. And now in his passing, when he has left all of us here in this material world, lamenting, because that is what we are doing. We are lamenting all the time. There's nothing that we don't do that doesn't remind us of him. Right now, I am in one of the matric venues doing matric marking. And of course, there's Prabha, ex-retired principal. And there's tons of people that I see. Every day I see them. And there's so many things about them that remind me of him. And I remember, even as recently as December when he was here, how we would be discussing COVID all the time. And he would be telling me what precautions I need to take at school. Can you imagine? And we would be exchanging recipes and the works. And that is why when he passed away, when he left, it was just such a huge shock, an absolute shock, because just the night before that, we were busy on WhatsApp, So, Krishna has his own plans for his devotees. And unfortunately, now we are all here and we're going to have to learn to pass this time without Prabha in our, in our vision. But, and wait for us to all be reunited again in the spiritual world. Hopefully, I don't know how long it will take me to reach there, but hopefully from all the lessons that I learned, I hope to make my way back there. And very big shoes, nobody can fill them. And yes, like Renal was saying, we will always love him and we will always respect him. And yeah, there will be no other Prabha in our life. Absolutely none. And thank you very much, Prabhu, for this opportunity. Hare Krishna. Prabhavisnu Das.
Ki Jai. Thank you very much for sharing that heartful memories. Yes, Srila Prabhupada, in many of his purports, has given us the surety that if we can chant 16 rounds nicely daily, follow the 4 regular principles nicely, and try to assist the preaching mission as best as we can in according to our capacity, we guaranteed to go back to Godhead in this life. Now we even have more mercy by being connected to Prabhu Prabhu, who is now able to send, as Ranel Prabhu said, he's already sending blessings. So we have so many devotees to give us blessings. We should have firm faith that by following Srila Prabhupada, being attached to his lotus feet, to the lotus feet of devotees, we are guaranteed to go back to Godhead. Not on our strength, but on the strength of Srila Prabhupada's words. Krishna will make sure, because of his attachment to Srila Prabhupada, he will lovingly want to fulfill Prabhupada's instructions. So we can take great solace in that. Thank you very much for sharing. Are there any other devotees that would like to share? If there are no other devotees, let's just wait 1 or 2 minutes. If there are no other devotees that would like to share, we can then get Abhishek Prabhu to sing the final kirtan for Prabhavisnu Prabhu's pleasure and for
Hare
our
Krishna,
purification.
Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
It's actually Akshara. I just want to put my video on and then I have a quick few words I'd like to mention before we close off.
Please.
Just let me know the sound quality, please.
Sound quality is perfect. We can't, sorry, Akshara, we can't hear you now. Maybe you have to come closer.
Can you hear me now, Prabhu?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today on this auspicious occasion, I suppose I would say, because we are celebrating Aja's life. And it is his 10 days today since he's passed. So as you can see, all the grandkids are with me, well, just the girls. And we all wanted to just tell everyone on behalf of all of the grandchildren of Prabhavisnu Prabhu that, hearing all of these wonderful stories about him from times when we weren't even a thought. I mean, I myself wasn't born or anything like that. It's so heartwarming to hear the type of person he's always been, and he's shone through in that whole example that he's shown everyone, and how to be Krishna conscious, and that was his life. It was Krishna first and then everything else. That was the bottom line, and it never changed. So, from me personally, being so close to him, spending most of my childhood with him as well. I mean, he took me to India when I was 4 years old, and I missed out on so much school. It was, I think, just as winter was ending. And, I've got so many memories with him that I can cherish. And I'm so grateful for, because he had so much of faith, and, he entrusted me with the responsibility to keep everyone together. And, I just hope that I can continue doing that. And, Avyakta as well, she, having her circumstances and everything, like Aja never, discriminated against anyone with any form of disabilities or anything like that. He treated us as equals. And we are just so grateful for all of his teachings, because he introduced us to our best friends, Radha and Krishna. And he has really set a stalwart example of the life that you need to lead. And on behalf of all of us, we are just so grateful for him. And we want to thank you, Aja, and we love you so much. And, you know, it has been very difficult for us, but with everyone's support and everyone's blessings and Aja's blessings as well, we have managed to make it through this, and we will continue to persevere, and we will celebrate his life, because he always told us, like I said on the day of the funeral as well, when we, you know, zoomed it to everyone, that Aja told us not to cry. We do not cry for him, because we will be the fools in an ocean of worldly sorrows, and that is not what we need to do. So we are going to celebrate him. And I thank each and every one of you who will also celebrate him, because you all have such precious memories and precious moments with him. So from the bottom of our hearts, we love you, Aja, and thank you so much. And, you know, we will always keep chanting the holy names just as you have taught us, because without Krishna, you cannot come out of this material world. And you know, that is just something that we wanted to say from all of the grandchildren. And Hare Krishna to everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for sharing that, Akshara. And yes, Prabhavisnu, Prabhu would be very, very happy if you all continue very, very steadfastly in your Krishna consciousness. He has taught by his example, by his words, very, very important, as you mentioned, that we need to become attached to Krishna first. Generally, when I give a wedding speech between a couple, you know, people want to strengthen the bonds between each other, the husband and wife. So I generally tell them it's like a triangle. A marriage is not a relation between couples. A marriage is a relation between triplets, between three people. It's between Krishna and the husband and wife. And I say it's like a triangle. If you have a triangle and you have the apex, which is on top, Krishna, and the husband and wife are like the two at the bottom. So the more the husband and wife are attached to Krishna, as they increase their attachment to Krishna, we see that their relationship is becoming closer and closer and closer as it goes to the top to Krishna. So even though he's mentioned that we need to strengthen our relation with Krishna, at the same time, our relationship also becomes strengthened with the family members, with the devotees. So it's achintya abheda bheda tattva, inconceivable that how we can become attached to Krishna and yet we simultaneously become attached to everyone else. Krishna's devotees, Krishna's incarnations, all in one. So it's a wonderful example that Prabhu Prabhu has left us. I'd just like to read a small message by Shamsuna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisance, Ogla Srila Prabhupada. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family and devotees impacted by His Grace Prabhu Prabhu's departure. Just want to point out that after hearing all the wonderful and sweet memories of Prabhu and the devotees that we lament, we are unable to be part of these loving exchanges and pastimes and to have Prabhu's association that many of you had for many decades. All of you are most fortunate to be very intimately associated with Prabhu. We are grateful for the few moments we have had with Prabhu and are learning to appreciate him and his family and devotees in Prabhu's association. All glories to Prabhu Vishnu Prabhu, all glories to Srila Prabhupada from Shamsun Prabhu and the devotees. So we'd like to thank him for that message. A last call for any devotees that would like to share. Going once, going twice. Thank you. So now we'll call Abhishek Prabhu to conclude with this memorial service and sing for the pleasure of the devotees, Srila Prabhupada and Prabhu Vishnu Prabhu. Abhishek Prabhu, all yours.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shravadi Paschitade Shritarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura, Shri Harinam Sankirtanya Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Rama,
Leave the music, yeah.
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Can I? Okay, shall we leave? Oh no, they.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Jagannath Swami Jai Jagannath Swami Jai Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya
Hi. Wow. Nemo. Thank you very much, for Abhishek Prabhu, for that wonderful kirtan. I'm sure Prabhu Prabhu is bestowing you a huge Jagannath smile and blessing you all. Thank you very much, devotees, for spending this time this evening glorifying His grace, Prabhu Prabhu. It is heart-wrenching. It is nutrition for the soul. And most important, it pleases Krishna. This is what Prabhu Prabhu wanted us to do through our mind, body, and words to serve Krishna. And by glorifying His wonderful qualities and services, no doubt Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Maharaj are all pleased. So we like to thank everyone that has joined us on this Zoom call for sharing the memories. And please continue steadfastly. It is a very, very trying time that the planet is facing. From last year, from an astrological perspective, the planet has increased its vibrational frequency, which means that greater and greater Krishna consciousness vibration, those that are practicing Krishna consciousness, those that are moving towards spiritual life, their vibration is increased and increasing, and it's aligning with the frequency of the planet. And therefore, we want to continue our relationship with Krishna. This will please our previous acharyas, it will please Srila Prabhupada, and specifically it will please Prabhavisnu Prabhu, that we can also perfect our lives following in his footsteps, and in this way experience immortality. This is what Srila Prabhupada came to give, came to share. Prabhupada said, the purpose of the Krishna conscious movement is so that we can be happy. And this material world is not a place for that because of the duality, because of the different kleshas, different types of suffering. But if we connect to Krishna, following in the footsteps of great souls like Prabhavisnu Prabhu, then we will have that link with Krishna, have that solace, and ultimately perfect our human form of life, which he wonderfully demonstrated throughout his life. And as we mentioned, perfected the final lesson. He was a school principal and he gave many, many exams. He himself passed many exams, and he passed the most glorious and final exam of death. So let's pray to him that he may bless us, forgive us for all our offenses, and that we may also one day perfect this wonderful exam of remembering Krishna at the time of death. So please remember Krishna and never forget him. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhakti Maharaj ki jai, His Grace Prabhu Prabhu ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jai, Nitai Gopramanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.